All right, everyone. Well, we are back and we are very luckily joined by one of the best striking coaches in the game, Brandon Six Gun Gibson. So, Brandon, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So, look, getting straight into it, Brandon, we know you once upon a time were a pupil under the great Greg Jackson, Mike Winklejohn, and it was an injury that led you to pursue a career in coaching. Did you find that when you went from being a pupil to being a coach, whilst you will always remain a student of the game, did you find that it was a natural transition from essentially learning to coaching, or was it something that you had to develop over time?
Oh, I think it was a combination of a lot of things. One, I'd been a lifelong martial artist. I feel like although I started coaching at a young age, I had over 20 years of experience and knowledge and skill and technique at that point. I think it fit my natural character quite well. I've always been a leader. I've always been a teacher. It was just something that's at my core foundation. But there was obviously a lot of things to learn, and I had two of the best mentors in the game to teach me, and I was able to work with some very high level students. So I've learned just as much from training guys like John Jones and Donald Cerrone and Alistair Overeem as I have from the mentors that I looked up to. So now I just take a little bit from every martial artist I've been able to learn from and try to pass it all along.
Brandon, you've talked about how you obviously are still a student of the game and how this helps you as a coach keep up with the constant evolution of the mixed martial arts world. As a student of the game, do you still find yourself, getting either humbled in the training room or discovering maybe a training method that maybe doesn't work as well as you'd originally thought?
Well, absolutely. I think I'm always trying to, look for new techniques and combinations and theories and aspects of the game. And I think there's a lot of things like in my own style as a martial artist that I've left behind, I've abandoned. And, so some things maybe with my own body change as I got older. I'm 40 now. There's some moves I just don't do as efficient as I did when I was younger. And then there's some things that I've become much more powerful with and much more, I just have better timing and better eyes for. But yeah, I'm definitely always getting humbled. I went just Wednesday night, was sparring in the class I was teaching at Jackson Wink, and one of the young CCFC champs, Damon Blackshear, man, he caught me with the left hook that my shoulder was up, my chin was down, and I thought my eye was going to swell up pretty good. So I'm always in there getting humbled still. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, for sure. So, and when you get caught with shots like that, that's when you consider maybe you should have done badminton or something. But so Brandon, look, back in 2017, you discussed how you train each fighter under your tutelage differently. So, for example, you don't train Carlos Condit the exact same way that you would train John Jones. Having been someone who's experienced the frustration of learning to strike from someone who has a one-size-fits-all approach, that philosophy of striking that you put forth, it really resonated with me. When you were working with an athlete and trying to figure out the best way to train them specifically, do you look at what they do well naturally, such as timing, speed, creativity, or do you find the holes in their game and fix those and sort of let their style develop from there?
You have to address it all. And I think Aaron Pico is a great example. Aaron and I have done 7 fights together now. When he came to me, obviously he's just such a gifted student, world-class wrestler, and his striking power is already legendary at only 24 years old. But with Aaron, I was able to really capitalize on the things he did very well, like using his boxing to set up his takedowns. And that's something we've seen a lot in his past 6 victories. Very smooth takedowns. He's been like 100% on his takedown finishes, which, I like to look at myself not just as a striking coach, but as an MMA coach. And for a guy like Aaron Pico, getting a clean takedown is just as important to me as, landing a flush, clean combination or having his defense super sharp. And, and to finish your question, we're always looking at the areas he's weak in and addressing those. And that goes for all my athletes. Aaron, for example, wasn't the best kicker. And so we've been super focused on his defense, especially in boxing exchanges, on his takedown entries, but really polishing up his kicks as well. And now his last fight, he had some great head kicks. They're just starting to come out very, very naturally. And it's keeping his opponents just very aware. There's no safe place with Aaron now.
Brendan, in the last few years, striking in MMA in a general sense has seen a massive improvement, particularly in regards to footwork and setting up the big shot rather than simply sprinting across the cage and cocking back the overhand right. What skill set or aspect of striking do you think is underrated in today's MMA landscape and would bring striking to the next level in the world of mixed martial arts?
I actually think that a lot of guys have power. A lot of guys have great combination. A lot of guys have range control. But the highest level of striking to me is like the finite movements, whether that's a feint in your shoulders or just slight head movement or slight pairing, like never really being out of position. To me, that's the highest form of striking. And I think we're starting to see more and more mixed martial artists develop those like that very finite skill in those areas of the feints, of the head motion, of the defense, of the slips, of the parries, of the pulls. I think if you looked a few years back, you just see like these big drastic movements, not just offensively, but defensively as well. And when you look at a guy like, I think of like McGregor against Eddie Alvarez, where the slips and the pulls were just like centimeters off, which allowed the counters to be that much more devastating. Or like Adesanya versus Whitaker, like where you make guys miss by just the smallest fraction, which allows you to put that much more power into the counter. So to me, that's the highest form of striking, and that's something I'm always trying to develop in my fighters, and that's something John Jones has kind of been working quietly, but that's an area where I think everybody's going to be very surprised is how much John has been able to sharpen up some of these finite movements and motions.
For sure. So, Brandon, something you've said in previous interviews is it's my duty to make sure my fighters aren't getting hit. And I think your wording there is very different from maybe the baseline approach of it's my duty as a coach to make sure my guy wins. How early on in your career as a coach did you adopt that approach that the safety of your fighters and them not getting hit is maybe just as, if not more important than the win?
I started coaching guys that were like brothers to me, guys like Carlos Condit and John Jones. And, these are guys that I know their families well. I know their children. So it's always much bigger to me than just the fight night. And I think that commitment to each other, that commitment to our future, that always comes into my mind as I'm training these guys. And now that I kind of have this younger generation under my tutelage as well, it's like I take that much more responsibility and care in the way I teach them, the way I instruct them, the way I corner them. Because I've spent those nights in the hospitals with my friends after competition and seen the long-term effects of what could happen, in a 3 or 5 round fight. And it's something that, I take very seriously, and it's not all just for, Instagram cool mitt combos or the bright lights of fight night. Like all that stuff is very brief and very fleeting, where, the long-term impacts of an injury in this game can be with you forever.
Brandon, in discussing the fight between John Dodson and John Lineker, you discussed how the crowd will cheer the aggressive brawler but show little appreciation for the technical striker who uses footwork and angles to evade strikes. Do you think the general MMA fan base can ever reach the level of appreciation for the sport where the technical grappler or the technical striker isn't getting booed simply because they aren't walking forward, hands down, looking to be in a war?
I think the MMA...
You're good, man. You're good, man.
Got this little bouncing act going on. I think the MMA fan base has become much more educated since 2017 when I made that comment in a very close 5 round fight. We still see controversial decisions at times. Holly Holm was just in one this past week. It's always going to be challenging to look at strikes and what counts more for volume, what counts more for proper defense, or what counts more for that aggression of the one big shot that lands. There's always going to be debate. It's not like a basketball game where there's a set time and set score and that person wins. It's always going to be open to interpretation, and sometimes it's just hard from a coaching aspect to kind of keep track of like what are the judges looking for first and foremost, because I don't really care if the crowd cheers or boos. I want to know what what those judges are looking at and what the officials are looking for when they're getting ready to stop a bout. And, there's so much to take into it, but I do believe overall that the MMA fan base continues to become more educated, and we kind of see less of those like obnoxious boos when it's actually a very entertaining and technical fight.
Yeah, for sure. So, Brandon, look, you've really trained the who's who in mixed martial arts over your career. And I saw in a previous interview saying how you've learned so much from guys that you grew up watching or grew up training with early in your career. For you, what's been the most satisfying or gratifying, moment during your coaching career?
Oh man, that'd be so hard to put into just one. I mean, we've definitely had some amazing. I've been in the corner of 15 UFC world champions, and I've also had 5 times where we came up short for the belt that night. So it's such a spectrum too, and it's not always judged in wins and losses. I've definitely had nights where we came up short, and I couldn't have been more proud of my athlete, my fighter. And then there's been times where it's been just like a flawless execution at the highest level fight. That's what we train for. That's what we expect, and that's what we're mentally preparing for. So sometimes the biggest joys, aren't as great as you'd expect them to be, because that's what we've sacrificed for. But I've definitely had some amazing moments with friends. I always think Tim Kennedy at Fight for the Troops against Rafael Matala. That was one that meant a lot to me. I think of John Jones against Daniel Cormier 1. That was a fight that we put so much into. And even some that we came up short, like Carlos Condit against Robbie Lawler. That was a performance that I was so proud to be a part of. And Carlos is one of those guys that I always wanted to ride with no matter what. And then, seeing a guy like Aaron Pico who came to us, his career was off track, and for us to be able to get it back, those mean so much to me as well. So, it's hard to contextualize. I'm just grateful for those good nights, and I do my best to learn from the hard ones.
Yeah, Brandon, it's been well documented that you are the head striking coach, and like you just said, in my opinion, the greatest mixed martial artist we've ever seen in John Jones. It's been just over 2 years now since his last fight against Dominic Reyes, and you can tell he's really taken that time to develop his frame and almost mold into this new heavyweight build. How important do you think it was for him to take that extra time away from the sport to really get comfortable being 240, 250 from a striking perspective?
That jump from light heavyweight to heavyweight, to do it properly is the biggest weight gain. It'd be multiple weight classes if we're looking at somebody like McGregor did from 45 up to welterweight. It takes a long time to properly do that and make sure that you still have those neurons firing properly at that weight with that size. Just having a mental break, like it could be such a grind to continue, every 4 months or 5 months to fight the baddest dude on the planet that is coming for your belt. So, it's good to kind of take some time to slow it down and to not only build up your physique properly, but also build up your heart for it, your mind for it, your love for it, your passion for it, and prevent that burnout. And I think it's been really good. John has stayed hungry. He stayed focused. He stayed disciplined. And we're all very motivated for this next goal.
For sure. So, Brandon, one area that I've been interested in regards to John's move to heavyweight was sort of what weight he's going to come in at when he eventually fights. And, we hear it from the stands, have always thought that John coming in around 230, 240 would be perfect for him, as, he'll have the speed and agility advantage and still be able to utilize a lot of the tricks that he does in his striking. I know that John said in a previous interview that he's sitting around 260 now. Is there an ideal weight in mind that you think John should come in for heavyweight at?
This is going to be our first go at heavyweight. So, we're just going to see. We're going to see how the hard camp goes. Obviously, now there's no weight cut. I don't know what he's going to end up at on fight night. I really don't. But, we definitely have an idea weight of where he's moving best. We have, our speculations of, weight he's going to kind of naturally drop as we go through a full fight camp, and ways for him to maintain that muscle mass. So I don't know a hard number right now. We're just going to have to see and find out. And I also think another component of that is the opponent.
Yeah.
Some guys at heavyweight are cutting down to 265, and you also don't want to be at such a disadvantage where somebody has 20 pounds of muscle on you. So, it's opponent based. It's, and this is our first go at it. So we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, for sure. Brandon, look, man, last question from us. And we really appreciate you giving us some time today. Last one is you touched on it earlier, which is Aaron Pico, one of your pupils, he's now ranked number 4 in the Bellator featherweight division. And with his strike and everything, he's really a force to be reckoned with at 145. How long do you believe it is till we see Pico get his opportunity and challenge for the 145-pound title?
I think it could be this year. I think it could be 2022. We're ready, and if he got the call right now from Scott Coakley to fight Pitbull, we would take that fight in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. I believe his next fight really will truly be a number 1 contender fight. We hope that with the last bout, Jeremy Kennedy pulls out fight week. We're very happy that Adley Edwards stepped up and stepped in, but I believe that Aaron Pico is the best 145er in Bellator and soon the world. Mm-hmm. So I can't wait for him to continue to show the world. He's one of the greatest students I've ever had. He's one of the most amazing martial artists I've ever seen compete. He's really putting it together now, and he's going to capture that Bellator belt for sure.
Mm. Even him and Adam Boric would be a good fight. Another one contender fight.
That's something we talk about consistently, and that's something we're training for. And Adam Boric is young. He is a great contender as well, and we know we're going to fight him again, and we can't wait for that opportunity.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, look, man, we really, really, really appreciate you giving us some time today, and we'd love to chat to you again soon. And all the best, man. We can't wait to see all the guys back in there.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Much love.
Thanks very much, man. Much love.